So really quickly, what we're going to cover today includes what is the Boise City Department of Arts and History. If you are unfamiliar with this department, I want to review what panels are and a panelist's role. I want to discuss what programs are available for panel service, application criteria, and criteria for this to be part of this panelist pool, a rough timeline and when service might happen, talk about compensation. This is a paid opportunity, and once again, leave room for Q&A. So for those of you who are just learning about the Boise City Department of Arts and History, this is a department within and funded by the City of Boise. So just like library or Parks and Rec or Public Works, we are part of the city's larger ecosystem of services. And history, though, specifically is a cultural agency dedicated to, through our programs, fostering a sense of belonging and place through accessible arts and history projects and programs. We do a lot of different stuff that I won't talk about today, but if you're curious, I would highly recommend checking out our website to see just the breadth of what we're up to. Through all that work, we are seeking to empower and serve Boise residents by creating opportunities that nurture and sustain Boise's creative economy. So serving artists, creatives of all kinds, and of course, residents who want to participate in those programs in all the ways that they do. We have several divisions in our department, including archives. So we have a city archive, which is a really incredible resource, two cultural sites, the Irma Heyman House and the James Castle House, a grants program, a history division, and a public art program that has been around for much longer than even the department. So even though our department was officially founded in 2008, much of our work has been going on since the late 70s. So what are review panels and what do panelists do? All of our review panels are community-based groups that are tasked with evaluating applications primarily for grants, public art projects, and other artist opportunities such as residencies. So we offer two residencies, one at the James Castle House and one in partnership with the library and the cabin called the Boise City Writer in Residence. Panelists review submissions using a set criteria. They discuss their perspectives together. It's very collaborative and ultimately come together to make funding or selection recommendations. In this process, which we often refer to as the public process since the public is involved, really is here to help ensure that decisions are that the city is making with taxpayer dollars is transparent, equitable, and informed by you, the people, the local voices that are most impacted by the results of this work. We have three program areas that are available for panel service where we use panelists the most. The first is my program, which is the grants program. I'm not going to read all the information on this screen because it's a lot, but I think some important things to note about the grant program is that it does have a predictable annual cycle. So we open up this opportunity once a year. And for panelists, it is about a 25 to 30 hour commitment over the span of about 6 to 8 weeks, which includes training, evaluation of those applications, and participation in a group recommendation meeting. So actually coming together in person to talk about those applications and make those funding recommendations. That is very similar to the artist residency experience as well. Those residency opportunities are opened once a year at different points in the year, but a very predictable cycle. Same thing, about 25 to 35 hours over 6 to 8 weeks to complete all the required tasks of a panelist. Now, public art is a little bit different. We have a variety of public art projects of varying scope, scale, budgets, and timelines happening almost constantly, it seems. So that does mean that the panelist time commitment may vary a little bit. For things like the traffic box program, which maybe those of you who've seen them around town are familiar, those are a little bit shorter timelines, a little bit less hour commitment for a panelist versus some of the more integrated projects such as the public art you might see in our public parks, like most recently Kaisho Corner here downtown or Sri Buckner Webb Park over on 11th and Bannock. So those projects tend to have a little bit longer timelines, bigger budgets. Panelists are often involved in multiple stages of review and recommendation for those sort of things. So it's hard to kind of narrow it down here, but it's very satisfying to be part of those big projects if that is a time commitment you are able to make. So, talking about the application to become a review panelist, we are using a platform called Submittable. That's what the logo looks like, so you know you're in the right place when you're online. It is free to make an account. It's if you've submitted to publications or other art projects in the world, you may already have a Submittable account, so something worth double checking. One of the main things we're asking as part of this application, we check for some eligibility. The first is that you are a resident of Boise, Idaho, so you do have a Boise address. Also asking that you are at least 18 years of age or older, and then able to legally work in the United States, as this is a paid opportunity, so that we can pay you for your time. We are committed to increasing accessibility here at the City of Boise, so looking for any way to remove barriers of participation, including for our residents who might have disabilities or prefer a language other than English. Two things that are very clear up front when you go into the application is that if you are someone who's deaf or hard of hearing, you can submit your responses in a video format, or if you are prefer a language other than English, that is your primary language, you may write your responses in your preferred language, and we will have those translated as part of our review. So how do you get to this application? This is a screenshot of the Boise City Department of Arts and History's website. Up in the top header bar, you will see a navigation to opportunities. And when you click that open, there will be one that says Call for Arts and History Review Panelists. And all this information that we're covering today and some can be found on this main landing page. But right there at the top, you can actually click into the application and it will take you directly to it in Submittable. And this is what it will look like when you get to Submittable. I'm just screen capped the top part of the page, but just so you know you're in the right place. City and Arts and History logos right at top. And then once again, sort of the same information about what it is to be a review panelist, what we're looking for before you enter the application proper. So once you get into the application, there are a couple questions, some basic information such as your name, your address, confirming that you are eligible, 18 years or older, live in Boise, those sort of things. And then there are a couple core questions we are asking you to complete. One is which program areas you are most interested in serving on as a review panelist. This is a select all that apply. So if you are interested in grants, public art, and artist residencies, please select all those. But if you have a more specific interest, feel free to just select that. We ask for a self-introduction. So give us a chance to get to know you, how you interact, where you kind of are in the community. We ask about how you are currently engaging with arts, culture, and community life. You might be a practicing artist yourself. You might be a regular participant in every dance performance here in the Valley. We're just curious about how you already are engaged in these topics as once again, these panelists are helping select programs that are directly supporting arts, culture, and community life in Boise. We're interested in knowing a little bit more about why you want to serve on a review panel. Maybe you're curious about sort of getting a behind the scenes look. Maybe you've been a recipient of an opportunity and would like to serve or participate in a new way, or a totally different reason. But we're really curious about what is it about a review panel that is interesting to you? And then finally, we want to know more about your approach to fair and thoughtful review in the spirit of transparency and thinking about how we address our own biases. We really want to know how you would go through this process, how you would consider reviewing applications, and how you believe that looks in a fair and thoughtful way. To be added to the review panelist pool, we are using a rubric, just as if you are selected to be a panelist, we'll use rubrics for the projects you'll review. First thing you look at is eligibility, and it's a simple meets or does not meet. For our friends on this call who maybe don't live within Boise, Idaho, I hope there are opportunities elsewhere for you to participate in public process, but you would be ultimately ineligible to participate on our panels. So something to keep an eye on, that you are within Boise. And then we have those four 4 questions that are scored on just a 1 to 5 point. So we're just looking for that alignment, and an average score of 9 or above will be added to the larger pool of reviewers. So thinking about the kind of folks we'd love to see on our review panels, we really want to reflect Boise's diversity across backgrounds and lived experiences. Our community comes with so many perspectives, and having a wide variety of those perspectives when we're looking at applications is so valuable because we notice things that other people don't notice, or we can explain why something might be valuable to a community that you're a part of that maybe someone who is not part of it maybe isn't as familiar with. So we want to see really diverse panels in all its forms. We would love to work with people who are curious and thoughtful and engaged in community life. Some folks that are already seeing the value of this sort of work in our community. It is important that you are acknowledging that you will be evaluating applications using criteria, not just going off vibes. That we do use rubrics for transparency and shared language. So knowing that that is absolutely part of this experience, that you would be available for both virtual and in-person meetings and trainings. Every division does it a little bit different. Some folks meet only virtual, some folks meet all in person. It sort of depends on the scope and nature of that project or program or application grouping that's being reviewed. But just knowing that there might be a mix or a lean towards virtual or in-person meetings. And then finally, that you are aligned with believing in Boise's vision that, this is a city for everyone, and that you want to celebrate and uplift, place, people, and history of this community. Application opened last week and will close later this month, April 26th. It's a pretty quick application. It doesn't, from the few people that have already applied, doesn't take much time to fill it out. So you've got lots of time to do it, but just know that it isn't too big of a lift. There will be an application review by staff who lead all these panels between April 27th and May 15th. And then we will notify everybody of their status, whether they are on or within the pool of potential panelists in the month of May by the end of it. And then the potential service period, so the time in which you might be called upon to be a review panelist, will fall essentially over the next 2 years, June 26 through June 28. And as these opportunities come up, program staff will reach out to you directly to confirm your participation details, the timeline, the compensation for that specific panel. You find that you are called upon relatively soon, but it doesn't quite work. We'll, of course, make a note of that and try and use your service at a later time. And also that if, life gets busy and it doesn't ever work out, that's okay too. We'll make note of that. One thing I do want to point out is that being added to this pool of reviewers does not necessarily guarantee that you will get a position on a panel. Panels come in different sizes, depending on the number of projects within a year. So we want a big pool of folks to pull from, but just know that just because you're added, you might not be called upon. In recognition of your service, because this does take time and effort and energy, we want to acknowledge that and honor that through a one-time stipend. These stipends range in amount. For smaller projects, they might be somewhere around $200. For more involved and lengthy projects, they tend to go in the $350 and above range, once again, depending on that time commitment. Is that if you are agreed to be a panelist for a opportunity, you are disqualified essentially or not eligible from applying for funding from that same opportunity. So if you are asked to be a review panelist for the traffic box program, you cannot apply for the traffic box that year. So something to keep in mind of if you are really excited about an opportunity, you think you would be a good recipient, but you've asked to be a reviewer, you might have to weigh that decision and make the best choice for yourself. It's also important to note that panelists are essentially independent parties contracted and not employees of the City of Boise. So you're not going to get things like workers' comp, unemployment, those sort of things. Just making that very clear up front that this is a temporary one-time stipend for your 25 to 35 hours of service. Okay, and now we've got time for some questions. Oh, okay, great question. So someone is asking about how many people serve on any given panel. It definitely ranges. I think probably the smallest panels I've seen are five community members, and the larger ones being upwards of nine. So I would say that's the pretty typical range. For grants, I usually have about seven community members on my panel. Oh, yeah. Okay, another great question. What size of grants do you typically award? So for the grant program specifically, we award between $1,000 and $5,000 in $500 increments. So the max is 5K. But for artist residencies, the Boise City Writer in Residence is awarded $5,000. I can't remember what the James Castle House residents, their typical stipend is. And then the public art opportunity ranges pretty widely for their budgets. If there are any more specific questions, please feel free to reach out to myself or Liana. I am so appreciative of y'all being here today, and I hope you strongly consider applying to be a panelist, and if not a panelist, for one of our other opportunities in that we offer.